One and live.
Hello, welcome to Wales Comic Con Live. This is the Supernatural panel, and we're raising money today for our wonderful NHS. They're all out there working hard during this pandemic. These wonderful ladies have given up their time to come to chat to us today to help raise the funds. So I'm joined by Elena Hoffman, Emily Swallow. We're hopeful we may get Rachel Miner in later as well. We're Ruth Cornell and also Samantha Smith. Ladies, how are you?
Not bad.
Great. Wow.
Yeah, it's so lovely to see you. So where are you all around the world? Because you could be anywhere. So where are you?
I'm in Washington State, up Pacific Northwest, United States. I feel like I have to pinpoint it.
I know. I'm looking at Elena like she knows what I'm saying. Go ahead, Elena. I'm looking at your picture.
I'm just directly below Elena. If you go straight down from Elena, I'm just directly below in Los Angeles.
Aha, in LA.
I'm almost directly below Ruthie, still in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And I'm all the way on the other coast down in Florida. I usually live in New York, but my husband and I drove down to Florida to hang out with my parents.
We nearly had a straight ley line going on there. I thought there was something supernatural going on, but no, we've diverted. We've diverted off there.
Hard left.
Elena, we're about to drive up to Seattle.
Are you driving across country?
Yeah. Girl.
Yeah.
All right. Well, call me when you get here.
All right, it's gonna take a while.
Yeah.
We were thinking of driving to Vermont, and after it was like 33 hours in the car or something, we were like, maybe
But when else are you gonna?
Well, I wanted to do that too because I thought my in-laws are in DC, and I was like, let's just take like a whole trip. But then there was a concern at a certain point that like maybe state borders would even close.
Mm-hmm.
So it almost feels like COVID doesn't exist anymore. It's a
Yeah.
very bizarre
Just
feeling.
civil war. There's no COVID, just civil war. So it's just
Things are really complicated over there, don't you? You get text messages to tell you when things have been instigated and are raised. How is that working? Can you explain this?
Well, we
Yeah.
were talking earlier on the call about Amber Alerts. So that is something specifically related to children. And if there is a warning that there's a kidnapping, and by kidnapping, it could be a parent that doesn't maybe have permission or something. It's quite a broad meaning, but it's very severe. And we get on our phones Amber Alert. And it's loud. It's a signal. It's a text message, and it goes on all your devices. I've also been getting personally, like I used to live in Los Angeles, so I get tons of texts from the city of Los Angeles, stating what curfews are and things like that.
Yeah, so I was in doctor surgery during the week, around about midday, 12:30, and the alert comes on that the curfew was 4 p.m. And so the receptionist starts to phone everyone to say, your appointment's cancelled. We've got to get out of the area. And your man.
there.
Yeah. And so you feel, you want to get home and, get out of the way of any problems. At the same time, I have gone along to a really nice protest near where I live. There's so many peaceful protests. It was actually really uplifting having watched the news and feeling quite desolate by the end of Tuesday, Wednesday morning. To actually go along was quite uplifting, and kudos to everybody. I know people in Wales, I know people in the UK, I know everyone's coming out in support of Black Lives Matter. So it's wonderful. It's a scary time, but a wonderful time of change, I think, I hope.
And what's the you guys are on the ground there. Are you seeing that what are the protests like? Are they generally peaceful, or?
What I've noticed happening is they start out peaceful, and particularly towards the beginning in last week, they start out all very peaceful, and then towards the end, I think there's a lot of people infiltrating them that are rabble rousers and causing problems that the peaceful protesters are not involved in, but people can't tell what's what, and the looting and all that was completely unrelated. It was concurrent, but not the protesters themselves.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Feels like there was probably a lot of tension that have been very suppressed because everyone's been inside for so long, and so there's a lot of people that once there's this opportunity, they take advantage of it. But I also have just been so uplifted by the heart of it and the positive things that people are doing, and I'm hoping that continues to drown out the less savory
It seems to, by the fact that the protests have continued, but the rioting has not.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think the most important thing is to not lose the momentum of the movement and the actual work that does continue to need to get. I think a lot of people get hyped up on the adrenaline of the moment, and it doesn't necessarily translate, as we see it in history, towards the movement. So what I'm really inspired by, I don't want all this peacefulness to like be a complacency either. I think that there's very much work. I know for me, I've personally witnessed a lot of this. I was married to a Black man in the South and in Los Angeles for 20 years, and I have tons of stories of blatant racial profiling, assault at the hands of police. And so I'm actually inspired by the stories that people are actually listening to now. Because I've been talking about this. I know the Black community's been talking about this. And I think maybe had I not personally experienced a lot of these things, I would have compassion, I would have empathy, I would believe, but I'm not sure I would know. And I'm now seeing people go, oh, and that is power. Kind of like the Me Too movement. Finally, people were like, I believe you. That's what we've been asking for. Just fucking listen.
Loads of unconscious bias as well. I went for a meal with actually an Asian friend of mine, and he said, I'm going to demonstrate unconscious bias to you now. He said, I'm going to call for the bill. And he called for the bill, and he said, watch where the bill goes. Bill came straight to me. And I just went, wow, I wouldn't have even thought of that before, you know? So it was quite a shock. Yeah. And it's an eye-opener, you know, I think this is an eye-opener for all of us, and it helps move us on. Do you know what? Talking of moving on, we've got to get into some supernatural shenanigans here, okay? Otherwise, I'm going to get hung. I'll talk to you guys forever otherwise. Actually, beforehand, can I be a little bit naughty? Because Emily Swallow, I want to come to you because I absolutely have to ask Mandalorian. Oh my goodness me. That's a gig and a half right there. Listen, I haven't seen The Mandalorian yet. Can you I'm a doctor, so I've been a little bit busy. But can you just give us a rundown of your character, the armorer? Can you just tell us? Can you tell us anything?
I should have brought my helmet in here. I had a fan who made me an armorer helmet. Anyone who's watching, if you haven't seen The Mandalorian and you go looking for me, you won't find me because I am masked, as all the Mandalorians are. But it's really, I mean, I'm so proud to be a part of it, and I feel like it really captures the spirit of the original Star Wars movies. And I feel like there's so much in there. It's only 8 episodes. It's really easy to binge. And there's so much in there for people who are avid Star Wars fans and who know like to look for all the Easter eggs and stuff. But it's also, I think, like in a story that is easy to get caught up in, even if you know nothing about Star Wars. Jon Favreau is brilliant, and he just created the most wonderful, fun, uplifting, exciting series.
And all the reviews are about how amazing you are in it.
Oh no!
This literally, I've heard good things as well. This is what I wanted to say. Did you come across the Baby Yoda yet? Which just looks. All I've seen is the Baby Yoda.
I have seen with the Baby Yoda. The child is what we're supposed to.
The child, yeah.
I definitely have no idea though that Baby Yoda would cause the stir that he has. It's sort of insane.
So cute.
Oh.
Yeah.
And credit to you as well that you're getting the accolades that you are, and we never get even to see your face. Like you are emoting, projecting an essence.
It was a fun challenge, to get to, because I had done mask work like in theater back when I was in grad school, but to get to do that on camera is a very interesting challenge.
Is it closer to doing voice work than acting, or is it like dance?
No, because I found like I just had to think about movement in a different way, because the movement absolutely matters. You know, I found if I tried to look down so I could actually see where I was going, it just looked weird. So, you know, the movement I think actually becomes more important when you can't see somebody's face. You become more attuned to what their body's doing. So, so it was a fun, you know, vocally the vocal acting was important, but trying to marry the two and we sort of all figured that out together, like what translated. And then having that on camera, you know, is a whole different thing than if you're watching masked performers on a stage, because you're getting even less of the whole body. So it was a fun thing to unpack.
So interesting. Well, you
How
did amazing.
Oh no, we're fantastic. So talking, I mean, you've obviously now worked in you know, Armour. You've worked with some with some very difficult people, Jared and Jensen. I want to know what was it like working with them?
Is that for me or is that for
That's
all
for
of us?
you. That's for you.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, I was like, well, everyone's worked with them. I tell you what, you know, I came into the show the 11th season, and you never know when you're going into a long running show what you're going to get. I tell people it's sort of like being a transfer student to a new school, and everybody else already knows all the teachers, they know all the books, and you're trying to like fit in and figure out how everyone learns and how everything runs. And the amazing thing about the Supernatural set is that you don't walk into it feeling like you have to fall in line and go along with, like, you know, something that's already been established and this is the way you do things. I found that they were just so I mean, but they're also just they're so curious and playful and so welcoming of new people. And I think that that's why there's been so many incredible performances on the show, because they just create an atmosphere that is where everybody wants to do their best work and everybody feels like they can do their best work. They want to contribute. And so you get, I mean, we've had so many incredible characters through the years on that show. And I think it's because those guys, partly just because they're so generous and they work so hard and they inspire that in everybody else.
And they're respectful. And
Let me throw that out to the rest of you as well.
Sam, you've been in from the very beginning to almost the very end. Has the culture changed? Did it change, or has it always been like that?
No, it was from the very beginning, like a family. Like I remember I was in the pilot, which was here in LA. So it was a different crew. And I met the boys, but my interaction with Sam and Dean were babies in the pilot, right? So I never worked with them. But I saw them at the screenings and on set and stuff. And Eric Kripke, I mean, it starts at the top, I think, with the producers and the stars of the show. I've noticed that on almost every set I've ever been on. And the joy of being there, the gratitude, the respect, the fun, loving, all of that starts there. And it just pervaded the entire production for all 15 years. And I remember growing up, I was in like episode 8 or 9, and everyone that had been involved in LA was welcoming, like, and it just was lovely. And then the crew was like family from day one. So, I mean, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that the vast majority of the crew that shot season 1 is still there. I mean, there have been some changes, but it's not like this. Like, I think the costumers, there's been 2, I think, for the whole show. And that's for 15, that's a long stretch to not change a lot of the camera, the all that stuff.
Well, and also to see people grow within that community as well. You
get promoted.
Yeah, like they started as a camera assistant, now, you know, they're operators or whatever, examples of that. I mean, it's a beautiful thing to watch that as well.
Or like a PA is now an assistant director. Like that's a huge
that's a career trajectory,
yeah.
Right? And you can do that in the span of 15 years. I wanted to add to that because I've always said that too. Like when you walk onto a set, tonally, it's set by number 1 and number 2 on a TV show. On a film, I always feel like it's the director who sets the tone. But I remember Jensen telling me one time that early on in the very beginnings of season 1, Eric Kripke sat him and Jared down and we're like, look, we can write all the chemistry and all the brotherly love, but if there's no real bond, it won't translate. And they took that to heart. I think they really understood that, you know, it's got to be a community. Otherwise, they're going to burn themselves out. That happens on a lot of shows. And so I think that's what, you know, there is such a warm welcome and it becomes a collaborative effort, which is, you know, making art. And when we can all come in and do our best work and we feel respected, it makes everybody better.
Was there a lot of, you know, with the direction of your character's direction and whatnot? I mean, you know, I'm thinking of your feelings towards Chuck. Was that sort of set in stone, or was that, you know, were you able to sort of work in, you know, your own ideas into the characters?
Talking about my feelings towards Chuck? I guess so. I guess I'm the one that.
Oh
You're the
yeah,
only
yeah,
one
yeah,
that
yeah,
met him.
yeah.
No, Rowena met him too, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm God's
Yeah.
guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't actually know when I first started that Chuck was my brother. They hadn't decided at the beginning of the season, they hadn't decided for sure if Chuck was God. So at first, I was just, you know, railing and rallying against, I didn't know who. And then when they said it was going to be Chuck, I was like, oh my gosh. Well, I hope that like we have some, you know, some scenes where we just get to, because Rob is hilarious and such an incredible actor.
Yeah.
And so I was like really counting on some just stupid like sibling rivalry scenes, which we didn't really see much of in that season. We got to do that a bit in season 15, but I felt like there was tremendous freedom in how to interpret what they'd written. You know, obviously it was set up that I had this long-standing beef with Chuck, and I have to remind people of that many times when they're like, why was Amara so angry? Why couldn't she just I'm like, were you locked in a box for millennia by somebody who just decided like he didn't like how you play the game? No.
I agree. I started season 10, and there is something about stepping into something that's been running so long, it's such a well-oiled machine, that they are more relaxed. They're not trying to understand what the show is or how it works. They know what it is and how it works. So you come in with a strong opinion about your character or a strong way of doing it, and it was so lovely not to be told no. It was like, yeah, do more. You know, that was really, as a theatre person coming in to, this is my first American TV show, that was really like, and now I look back, I'm like, wow, what a gift.
Mm-hmm.
What a gift to land
I
there.
feel that way when I've been fortunate enough to, you know, be on a handful of series that I've started later on, and it does really become a collaboration, because a lot of times we don't know how long we're going to stick around. And so I kind of like think of it like a jam session. Like we come in and we bring our best game, and that inspires, maybe they have a plan for a character, but I think then it becomes sort of, you know, Shonda Rhimes. Yeah. If you read Shonda Rhimes' book, The Year of Yes, she talks about that with like just sort of a hum when she writes, and a lot of it is an inspiration between the actors, the characters, and the writers. And I think it naturally creates this, you know, collaborative effort.
When you say, you know, you talked about inspiration then as well, and when we're looking at sort of, I'm specifically thinking of cosplaying now, and you guys go to lots of conventions. What does it feel like when you go to a convention and you see somebody who's cosplaying you?
It's flattering.
Yeah.
I just think it's really cool to have that inspiration. I love watching people cosplay, and people are so creative. I'm so impressed by the community that shows up and creates in this world. Everything from cosplaying to art. I mean, I have fan art on my wall. Like I've received some really amazing artwork and sculptures, and like it's amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like I learned something about my character because I see the art or the cosplay, and you see an angle or a reflection from the person doing its point of view. So you're like, oh, I didn't realize the fact that, you know, this was, my expression was like this, or my hair was like this, that, oh, that's how that comes over. And I feel like I've learned from the fans more about Rowena.
I was going to say, we're all struggling. Marina, is she good? Is she bad? Is she, you know, what? So she's all over the place, isn't she?
She's brilliant.
She is brilliant. We love her.
Like every angle.
Oh,
Just unapologetic.
yes, absolutely. When you guys are on set, obviously there's little things that can go missing. You know, these things happen. Have you ever found that you're just driving home and something is missing from set?
No, honestly, sadly, no, I have nothing.
Nothing at all. Nothing
Not
at
even a
all.
plaid shirt. Not even a plaid shirt.
Can I say, listen, there's nobody listening. It's fine. It's just between us. Just if anything you took,
I do.
anything.
I take mementos from work. I always ask for my chair back. So we get director's chairs and it has our
Yeah.
name on it. And on the opposite side of that is the show embossment on the, is that the right word? On the fabric. So I have all of those from all the shows that I've worked on. And then I do have a few little mementos from Stargate. I have one.
Ooh.
She goes.
I actually, talking about chair backs, I'm actually asking for my chair back.
Want to go back to work?
But anyway, it's
Yeah.
different.
So this is a Kino, and I did ask for this.
Wow.
In Stargate, if you guys remember, they fly. This one does
Yeah.
not fly. It's very heavy. I have a piece of Stargate on my wall right there. It's it's part of from the door.
That's cool.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I just kept a piece. I just finished a show called The 100, and I just kept this mask. Ironically, I was like, I'm just gonna take this
Coming in
one.
useful.
Yeah. That's been my grocery store mask for the last 3 months. It has a memento because we don't have chair backs because the cast on that show is so big.
Right.
I never brought a chair back, so I was like, well, this will be my memento. So yeah, I do take things, but I do ask.
There we go. Do you know, there's a question which has just come up. This is awful, isn't it? Jared or Jensen? How can you choose?
They're like brothers.
Yeah, come on
Great
now.
question. I mean,
That's
You
awful.
can't.
Go
You
on,
can't
Sam. Choose one of your children. Go on.
Yeah.
Which one do you favor?
Not sure that was the question.
I love them all the same.
Exactly.
Depends on the day.
Right. It depends
That's
on
what
who's
I think
giving
about
you
my
grief.
kids.
Yeah.
Alcal. I choose Alcal.
But it is
Perfect.
funny because I think we all get that question a lot. And the fact of the matter is like when you, I know for me, when you work like so closely with people, there is a genuine relationship. They turn romantic or things like that, but there's a point where you're like, that's my friend. Like, you friend zone real quick.
You have to.
Yeah.
I think. Both of them, they don't feel like my children, if anyone's curious. They feel like more like my little brothers or cousins that I know really well. But I feel very connected to them and not parental, but I do feel like an older relative to them of some sort. And I try to boss them around. It doesn't always work, but I try.
Oh, brilliant. Do you know, the next questions that's just come in. Who would win out of a fight amongst all of you? I hope they mean the characters actually, rather than physically yourselves.
Oh,
Well, I wouldn't try to fight these women. I would just vamoosh. I'd be like, out of here.
I think we form like squad.
Yeah.
We all have like tremendous amounts of like power, and I don't know.
I feel like they're all smart enough characters that they would know better and they would just join forces.
Yeah.
Well, as the only human, I would lose.
I don't know. You're pretty tough. You're pretty
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to cross you.
Well,
I already
These
did
two-
sort of, Rowena and Amara already sort of fought, and Ruth and I have, I think, memories seared into our psyches of being suspended in the air from harnesses when it was freezing out and, pretending to
Singing our theme song.
Yes.
What's
what's your
song?
theme
We're
song?
going to sing it now?
Yeah.
Pull this
Oh,
fucking rules!
It was so cold.
And Rowena and Amara never dressed appropriately for the Vancouver weather.
So cold and that
Can we
silence.
Hi, I was in a nightgown for 11 seasons.
Actually, my wardrobe on that show was extremely practical. I loved it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I got jackets. But you do notice, in case you guys haven't noticed, everyone wears a coat on that. And that is, this is part of wardrobing in a city like Vancouver. Like you have to be practical that it's going to rain, snow, be cold. And you'll get like 2 days. I mean, I remember Ruth texting me from Stat going like, it's so fucking hot today. And those are so rare, right? Do you remember that day?
Well,
I was lying on the ground in a black suit. I was getting baked, literally baked alive by the sun. Yeah.
It was like texting me between takes, like, I think I might die.
season 12 was one of the hottest summers they had there, and then it was the winter where they had the most snow they'd had in years. So we had the gamut, and I was like, why can't we be in t-shirts, and then can we be in parkas? And they said in the supernatural world, it's never winter or summer, it's always fall or spring. And so you're always in multiple layers. And like the boys have all their sleeves cut off under their jackets because, you know, Jared runs at like 350 degrees. But I remember, and you know, we're in the snow and I'm in like a flannel shirt, and I'm like, you can see the snow, so we know it's winter. And they're like, no. And then in season 14, I was supposed to be in Wisconsin or something, and they're like, you need to pick a parka. And I was like, what? Oh. I had a coat. I was never so happy, but practical for most of the time. I was like flannel and jeans and a thing, and they didn't care if I wrinkled. They didn't care if I spilled food on me. Like if I was disheveled, they're like, it's fine. I'm like, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me.
But I think also it's really important to understand that like and this is something to understand about like nudity on camera too. You see it for 30 seconds. That was a 15-hour day. So where you're like, oh, you're just outside for 30 seconds in the snow. Nuh-uh. You were out there all day long, freezing your ass off to get this.
Oh yeah. I did a scene with Jared in the freezing snow, and they had to keep redoing it because I kept going, anyway, I need to like your mouth is frozen and you're like,
I'm working.
It's awful.
Yeah.
And then everyone else, the crew is outside all that time as well.
I was going to say, whatever we're doing, we also get whisked away into a little tent with like a fire or a fan, like shade or whichever way it's going. But the crew are just there laboring.
Yeah.
In the rain.
They deserve all the respect for that. However, if you know the crews in Vancouver, they are prepared. They have electric boots. They've got with
electric jackets,
electric gloves. They're like, oh, I'm fine. And you're like, oh.
They have, and full rain suits. I'd never seen water pants before I worked in Vancouver. Like they look like they're on deep catch in the sea or something. Like they're in these suits, and they have 2 sets for the morning and the afternoon because it gets a little wet.
And also
they're the most prepared people I've ever seen in my life.
Could you not get Vincent a little refrigerated one? If they're getting heated ones, you get them a little refrigerated one, and you keep them nice and.
That would be smart.
I started my career in Texas, and I did a lot of movies in Texas, and that is a real. And I did a movie in Turkey, and heat exhaustion is a real thing. So they do actually have these cooling things. They're like gel packs, and they keep them in coolers for the crew, and they put them on their neck, and you just swap them out. You replace it. Now I don't know if we would be able to do that, germs, but you just swap it out and you put it on your neck, and that actually cools your entire system.
Season 15, we had 2 faints 1 week. That week that I was texting you about lying on the ground, we had people faint from.
Yeah, it was so bad. Yeah, and go ahead.
I was just going to say that Moira, our on-set dresser person, has heat packs that she sticks to us under all our clothes, like at the small of your back and in your pockets. And I was talking to Elizabeth Blackmore, who played the Men of Letters. What was her? Tony she played. Yep. Anyway, she was on a show in Atlanta on the Vampire Diaries or the originals, one of them, and she said the opposite. They like Elena said, they put ice packs in their clothes. And she said normally actors always want one more take. And when you're in extreme temperatures, they're like, "Are you good?" We're like, "I'm good, I'm fine. Was I on camera? I'm good. I just want to go." And you're out.
Well, and there are union provisions as well. Like I remember doing this movie in Turkey, and we were shooting in the middle of the desert. And like me in the middle of the desert, there was no shade. I remember one of the actors was like, my like my air conditioning in my trailer doesn't work. I'm like, oh no, it's working. It's just, it was 155 degrees. Wow. And your air conditioning only will cool you to 90 degrees in that extreme. And I remember saying to the line producer, I was like, I feel like this is an insurance day. Like maybe we call it today. And he was like, no, it's only 150 degrees in the sun. I was like, where we're all standing.
That is unbelievable. Goodness.
Like 150, 150?
155 was our highest temperature.
That's crazy.
I didn't know you could survive in that.
Yeah, like, you barely shoot a movie in it.
I wouldn't survive that. would.
That was altogether supernatural. Ladies, I'm just looking at the time here. I want to get a question into you, actually. 15 seasons. Incredible. What is the secret? What is Supernatural's secret to being able, the longevity of the series? And I'm going to put it to each of you. Go.
The fans, they keep showing up.
Fans, yeah.
And I think the fans also, I feel like it's a combination. Like it goes both ways, in that the writers have, first of all, like the core of the show is so strong. Like we know what the most important part is, like this bond of these two brothers, and that never deviates. And but then I feel like the fans have been so welcoming to like such crazy storylines, and so then the writers get really creative, and Jared and Jensen and all the guest stars that come in, like they keep creating new versions of, you know, things that have maybe already happened, but it happens in a new way, and the fans get excited, and then the actors feel supported, and then, you know, it's just this beautiful symbiosis.
Yeah, and I do think that the writers, and I think Supernatural was one of the first shows to be on Twitter, talking backwards and forwards between creators and fans. And I do think Supernatural has evolved with the times. Just even speaking about my own character, having an arc, having a beginning, a middle, and an end, and you know, being this, having a through line. I think the female characters have become less dispensable. I think the writers have evolved with the fandom. I think that's been really. I'm so lucky again to be part of that.
Absolutely.
I think that it's at its core, it's lightning in a bottle, and if we could explain exactly what it was, everyone would do it. But it is the alchemy of the incredible fandom, the cast, the writers, the crew, the bosses, all the producers, being on the right network for the right show. Like it's all these pieces, but it's the magic of like there's true love there between. They call it the SPN, the Supernatural family, for a reason, and it's actually a true love between all components and overall. And I don't think that's. I mean, it's really rare. It's not just not something you can duplicate. It's like unheard of. It's magical.
I think
and
the key in that,
unexplainable.
Yeah, and I think the key in that too is it's not without its faults. And so I think, like all of you mentioned, you know, it's a synergy, and it's kind of woven together, and we're learning as we go. And there's a lot of, there can be a lot of tension sometimes, and
What?
but yeah, we're learning, and we're human, and I think anyway.
Yeah,
like any family, you have faults and flaws and fights, and you love each other anyway.
Yeah,
it is true.
It is one big huge dysfunctional family, and as an only child, like I do feel like I've learned stuff about how far you can go off the rails, or people can go do whatever, and it's still okay. You're still part of it. You still belong. And yeah, it's been wonderful.
I'm literally going to push you for 2 minutes more because I've gone over by loads of time, but I'm absolutely loving chatting to you. Very quickly, one thing from each of you that your character has taught you. What have you learned from your character? Go for it. Go for it.
It's okay to not make the popular decision as long as you really truly believe you're doing the right thing.
Okay.
And stick to it.
Wow, that was deep off the cuff, wasn't it? That was great.
Yeah. I feel like for me, I genuinely have a love affair with all my characters, and Abaddon was someone, you know, she's unapologetic, and I love her, the energy behind how powerful she was. To me, I also, and I think it's often forgotten, my character Josie, I learned a lot from Josie, because I think Josie made a lot of sacrifices and understood her trajectory in the storyline. And so I learned a lot from her about being unapologetic as well in the human version. So I think it's just honoring, you know, and like Sam said, not, you know, it might not be always the popular decision, but just sticking to it, and it inspires people.
I've learned a lot. I wish I could be more like Rowena sometimes, believe it or not. I have learned that magic is real.
I feel like I came to Amara taught me so much about because the way that I had to get into her was to figure out what her soft spot was, because she was presented as this like all powerful evil character, and finding her vulnerability taught me definitely to look at that idea of darkness in a different way, and to want to find what is underneath my own anger, other people's anger, you know, other people, like the reasons they lash out, like what is the hurt that's in there. And then also just the idea of being vulnerable. You know, when she finally did ask for what she wanted, and accepted that what she wanted was love and you know, family, like that's hard to ask for sometimes when you have people who you don't think are going to accept you. So she definitely taught me, and I have the same feeling as Ruth. Sometimes I wish I were more like her. In some ways, I don't want to go around smiting people.
Just in some aspects, that's for sure. Guys, we're out of time. Ruth, I've got to tell you, loads of people have been saying you rock dancing, you're awesome, but we haven't got time to talk about it, but they just think you're wonderful. So Lady Huffman, Emily Swallow, Ruth Connell and Samantha Smith, thank you so much, guys. What a chat, absolutely loved it. You're watching Wales Comic Con Live, the Supernatural panel. You've all been wonderful, helping raise funds for our NHS fighting the pandemic here. Stay tuned, lots more still to come.